All right, guys, so there's been a post made by Axton, a multi rank 1 Feral Druid, a good friend of mine as well. He's a great guy, and he's very insightful on Feral Druid. He's made a post called The Dire State of Feral PvP. So I thought we should go through this post, kind of see what's going on, and yeah, kind of talk about things I agree with, potentially not agree with, even though I do think I'm going to agree with a lot of it. And then just going to look at and highlight some of the issues with Feral Druid in PvP. This post is aimed at addressing the design flaws that ultimately make Feral both unfun to play and play against. I think Feral, for the longest time now, is the most unfun it's been in a while. At least in Shuffle. That's the thing. It's fun in 2v2 for me. It's really fun right now. I think it's nice. But in like Shuffle / 3v3, I think it's not very nice. Bit of background about myself playing a spec. I've played Feral in every single expansion, although I didn't consider myself Feral main. Consider myself Feral main until season 15 or patch 5.4. I've done all kinds of PvP on the spec at top level, including World P, rated BGs, and rated arenas, with the rated arenas being my primary focus. I mean, Axton is, one of the best Ferals in the game, so he's very qualified. If you ask Feral players what the spec needs right now, most will say it needs survivability buffs, damage buffs, or off healing buffs, which are all understandable. However, the root cause of all the problems Feral has right now, in my opinion, is the wild attunement on talent. So Axton has been talking this for a while, and I quite agree with the sentiment, but there's like more that needs to be added there for context. But let's see here. When this talent was first introduced on PTR, I remember thinking this talent was a cool idea because it encourages casting Cyclone. In Dragonflight Season 1, most Ferals were not even talenting into Cyclone because it didn't feel worth it. This is true. In Season 1, we're like bleed bots. We just bled and just spam bleeds. That's all we did, and then bits with Apex, right? So when we first got word of Wild Attunement, I was like, yes, man, this is nice. Now we're gonna have a reason to actually cast Cyclone, which did freshen up the playstyle in a way, but came with a lot of problems, which Axton's gonna get into now. So killed the damage bot playstyle that was widely negatively received. Yep, true. But now, what I play in most shuffles is that kind of full cleave build with Cyclone. It has its issues for sure with how it plays. What is here? After playing with Wild Attunement for a few weeks in Season 2, the problems this talent created became apparent very quickly. In no particular order. Let's hear. So here's the problems with Wild Attunement. If you don't play this talent, it feels very hard to generate pressure. True. This is one thing that I've brought up in past videos about Feral Druid and PP as well. Feral right now, it's not very good in the meta, right? It's weak. Most people would probably rate it, lower than 8 tier. I think Feral's lower 8 tier right now if you had to put it in a tier list. But the only reason we're even that is because we have this talent, Wild Attunement. We're so dependent on this one honor talent that it's not good. So if that was gone and Feral was left untouched how it is now, it would just be horrible. Which is why I'm kind of worried that they want to reduce Cyclone spam, and then they nerf Wild Attunement, whatever, and then they don't compensate in some way, and then Feral is just gonna plummet to the depths. So, but yeah, so there has to be other changes to kind of balance out whatever the changes to Wild Attunement is, or the even potentially removal, right? The sound turns Cyclone from a crowd control ability into a crowd control and damage ability. True. It's a big party damage, especially not mixed with your 2-set. Which, to be clear, I actually quite like the interaction. I enjoy that this talent has an interaction, with your 4-set. It's cool. But it does turn it into a damage ability as well, which could be argued probably if that's a good or bad thing. Promotes chasing gameplay involving casting Cyclones and totems, pets, and even purposely casting Cyclone into immunities like Divine Shield, Antimatter Shell, or into another Cyclone early just trigger Wild Attunement. Very true. I do this all the time, right? It doesn't really matter landing a Cyclone. You just gotta finish the cast. That's the thing. Feral's ultimately a melee DPS spec, but is forced into casting almost as much as some wizard specs to win games. I actually haven't thought of it like that. This is true. Like, certain matchups, I'm just doing, like, casting perma the whole game. Like, half the time is casting, and that's the playstyle you have to do to actually perform. Having still in cast cycle on human form makes Feral extremely squishy because when casting, we aren't playing evasive or surviving bear form or doing damage if you don't successfully land clones. This is true. Like, you know, one big problem is Feral's squishiness. And you're forced to, like, cast a lot. That's just how the meta is. Like, it's how you have to play if you want to perform even, like, semi-well. So you're kind of forced to just tank more damage than you would if the playstyle was more revolved around, you know, being capped for more bear forming. I think adding, like, some more utility to bear form could be good. Like, if we kind of move away from, like, a cyclone playstyle, like, I think something like fresh for bear form could be like having, like, more damage in there, like, built into it, which might come in the War Within hero talent tree when we get the bear form or guardian / feral hero talents. Because of how much a feral can potentially control a game by abusing wild attunement, it encourages the other team to have to shift all their attention on the feral, because if they don't, then the game can spiral control very quickly if cyclones are not stopped. This is true, yeah. Like one thing is saying, like, ferals train down every game, and I think a pretty big part. This is multiple factors there, right? But a big factor is that the feral is going to be spamming clones if you don't do it. So you're kind of forced to go them, and then the feral being quite squished on top of that just kind of makes that, like, a really, really rough thing to deal with. While team is too powerful in situations where the other team doesn't have enough ways to stop the feral from casting. Okay, so yeah, there are his problems with Wild Attunement. I agree with, like, most of this. I think, like, it's not necessarily a bad thing if it's a crowd control and damage ability in and of its own. But it's kind of like, you know, what's around that. You know, like, how many times you can do it, how strong is it when you do it, and, like, in which way does it also buff your damage. What is here? Feral went from not even needing Cyclone Keyban in Dragonflight Season 1. Did I remember that, man? Like, that felt really bad, though. Like, just never Cycloning. To relying on Cyclone so much that it became the #1 most killed spec in Solo Shuffle. I think there's, like, more reasons for Feral. You know, like, it's not only that's making us the #1 killed spec in Shuffle. But it's definitely a factor for it, you know. It's for sure. But there's, like, more factors for that. We need to go back to middle ground where we're casting Cyclone only when it makes sense, such as for crown control or cycloning someone at low HP when they use a defensive / offensive CD and so on. There shouldn't be a massive damage incentive attached to Cyclone because it just creates extremely unfun gameplay on both sides. Feral offensive pressure without Wild Attunement is laughable right now. True. Like, Wild Attunement is our savior, like, in every way almost right now, man. Which is not good. Like, being that dependent on a talent like that, it's not nice, man. But in Incarn, we can do some big damage. We can. And yeah, again, our tear set just kind of makes this even more apparent. Because when you Cyclone, you get a free frenzy. That free frenzy will increase all your damage by 10% for 10 seconds, right? So, like, this tear set just really kind of fuels this fire that's going on there. I don't think Feral is as squishy as people say it is. It's a gameplay that Wild Attunement forces us into that makes Feral feel squishy. The way Feral survives is by constantly being evasive with shifting, stunning, rooting melee off you. Pre-bear forming stuns. Feral has been in a place where it can do enough damage just with actual attacks, not by cycloning. Yeah, I mean, again, there's, like, more things to add here, but I think a big part of it makes sense. If you're not in cat form and casting things, you're not in bear form, you're just going to be getting blasted, man. Standing still and taking damage. But I think Feral has a lot of issues beyond that as well, though. Like, for example, regen. Like, regen heals basically nothing. In recent times, they unnerfed regrowth 2 times, by 20% 2 times, and regen, which is kind of eased that a bit, but yeah, it's still quite laughable, like how little regen does, for example. I ran a poll recently and asked anyone that plays Feral to answer if they like or dislike the current playstyle of Feral associated with Wild Attunement, and almost 75% of players that responded said they dislike it. Actually, I remember this poll. I don't know if I voted on this. A common point for people that voted liking Wild Attunement said that they like it because it's more fun than Season 1 damage while Feral, which is a very reasonable take, but Feral has had a perfect middle ground in previous expansions. But yeah, it's like, what are you comparing it to, right? Like, if you're comparing it to like the most recent thing we had before Wild Attunement, then it kind of makes sense to, you know, be like, yeah, I prefer this. If you think compared to like what it could be, I think then suddenly, you know, you probably don't prefer that. But yeah. Yeah, like, I think Shadowlands Feral overall felt very nice. Like, it was fun to play. Of course, you know, the whole Covenant thing was a bit of a mess at times. But, like, survivability-wise, playstyle-wise in general, you know, we cycloned quite a bit. Because we went from was it BFA? Did we even have Cyclone? No, wait, yeah. In BFA it was a PP talent, I think. But, to Cyclone being baseline in Shadowlands, and it felt like a nice mix of things, you know? And also contributing to people having to go us more because the talent is so strong. If you don't go the Feral, which means you have to go the Feral, then he's going to get blasted down. So, yeah, I think for me, it ends up being no, and there's definitely better solutions to our playstyle. The worry, again, is that, like, we pick, like, or that Blizzard would be like, okay, Ferals don't want a Wild Attunement. Let's just nerf it, take it out, whatever, and then we're just left with how we are now, minus that, and then we're going to be, you know, maybe one of the worst specs in the game. But yeah, so that's my take on it. I think another major contributor to Feral not talenting in Cyclone Season 1 is simply the placement of Cyclone in the talent tree, dude. Yes. Dude, we talked about this since, like, early Dragonflight beta. The first tree that they put out was the Druid tree. And ever since then, we're like, yo, dude, this is the worst placement ever. I gotta, like, kind of waste, like, you know, depends on if this is a waste, but at least waste 3 points to get something you need or you really want. Yeah. I feel like Cyclone should just be baseline. Like, every castable CC is baseline. Like Spamble, almost. Sheep is baseline. Fair for Warlocks is baseline. Like, all these things are baseline. Like, the Cyclone equivalents, pretty much, are baseline. But Wild Attunement is just so important that we have to just spend points and pick up Cyclone anyways while losing points and other things to help us survive, like Movement Speed, or Thick-Eyed, or Mass Entangled Typhoon. Yeah, I think, like, picking up, you know, these things would be cool, but you just don't really have those points. This is, like, one thing we've also been saying for a long time. If you just make Clone more accessible, or just make it baseline, right? Either or. Maybe, like, put it where Soothe this. Like, here. Because we're going this anyways. Like, put it in like, here. That'd be good. Then suddenly, you know, it opens up more chances for us to, like, be more creative with our talents. And pick, yeah, Mass Root or other stuff, basically. In every previous expansion, the Feral had access to Cyclone. Cyclones were casted at situational times whenever it made sense, which I liked. Also, don't think Cyclones would be a good thing to return the current state of the game with how abundant comp points are now. Yeah, I agree with that. And it's true, like, it used to be, like, more situational when it was good to cast Cyclone. Now it's always good to cast Cyclone. Maybe not Incarn, but, you know, in general. Even if it was instant with CD, the game has enough instant CC already. In my opinion, when a Cyclone may cast as Spamble CC is more unique and skillful. If Wild Attunement was removed, and to avoid being Season 1 Dragonflight Ferals again, Ferals needs to have better balance between being damage dealers, hybrid, Cyclone casters. This balance has already been figured out in previous expansions. Yeah, Shadowlands, again, like we talked about. Everything Shadowlands hit the mark with Ferals' overall power budget. except for healing being arguably too strong. True. I think like you had it healing in Shadowlands Feral, which was too good. And you have it now. There has to be like a middle ground where it's not like insanely strong, but it's not insanely weak, and you know, good and just nice. But the main contributor to that was Bear Form plus Fleshcraft, and this is true. And the Barskin Legendary, real and true. Yo, Deathbite, thank you, man. Appreciate it, dude. Yeah, dude. Oh, man. Fleshcraft was kind of nice. And the Barskin Legendary. And also, like, just regen healing so much. If I can make a few changes to Feral right now, I'd remove Wild Tumen completely. Make Cyclone Baseline and put it in Sue's spot. Wait, I actually just said this as well, man. Yeah, like, put it, like, where Sooth has been. To be fair, all Ferals have been saying this since, like, you know, beta. Buff Swarm, buff Lunar Inspiration, buff Shred, and buff Feral Friends to compensate for losing Wild Tumen. Yeah. I miss having like using Lunar and Swarm, man. I do. I really do miss that. A slight nerf to Saberjaws because sometimes bites are critting too hard. I think, I mean, these are very good suggestions. Like, really, really good suggestions. And I think, like, most people agree that Feral playstyle was more fun in Shadowlands. This was kind of like make it more like Shadowlands, but you know, a bit like a mix of Shadowlands and how it is now. I'd also like to see a buff to rip damage, but understand this would indirectly buff her cleave damage, which is a Prime Wrath, which could be problematic. That's kind of what happened in season 1. Is that rip was really strong with Prime Wrath, and it was just doing the craziest damage. And then they nerfed they nerfed Rip, I forget, by like 18%. And then we kind of suffered in, you know, all other scenarios pretty much. Yeah, make Prime Wrath apply its own bleed, yeah. Like, just call it like something else. And then have that be that. I know talent tree altercations are something that can just be done at any time, like number tuning, but I strongly believe Moving Cyclone would have zero negative impact for druids doing any other types of content. There's hope to see major improvements to the druid class tree in the future in general. Yeah, I think the druid tree in general is just very problematic, and it's not just for PPers. It's like across the board. It's just not very nice. The tree feels really bad. Make Feral great again. That's a very good post, guys. I mean, Axton, he's based as always, you know. But yeah, that's a post. I'll link it in chat. I mean, it's pretty spot on, man, honestly.